You are tuned in to another edition of Americana Music Profiles, brought to you by Americana Rhythm Music Magazine and AmericanaMusicMagazine.com. I'm your host, Greg Tutwiler. Let's jump right in to the next exciting interview. Colorado-based musician Lee Sims turned a middle school talent show performance into a musical career that resulted in a Colorado Entertainer of the Year award in 2001, Colorado Country Music Hall of Fame Entertainer of the Year in 2003, and a three-time Golden Music Award winner in Nashville, Tennessee. Join me as Lee and I talk about his new CD, A Few More Miles to Go, on this episode of Americana Music Profiles. Hi, Lee. Welcome to the podcast today.
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you.
Great to talk with you, and we are crossing miles here. I'm in Virginia. You're in Colorado. Is it deep in the heart of winter and snow season where you are?
Yeah, it's not going to be too bad today. We're supposed to be up around 50 degrees, so for us, that's not too bad.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, that sounds like about us. So this weather patterns are all confused anymore. It's hard to tell anymore. It used to be you could count on it, but these days it's hard to tell what it's going to be.
I think that's a fact.
Kind of like music, I guess, right? Music is all across the spectrum these days. You can like just about anything you want.
There's a lot to offer out there, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, give me some background about how you got exposed to music in the beginning. Did you grow up with it as a child? Family exposure? When did it start for you?
It was pretty much as a kid. My dad was in the military, and he was in charge of special services, which booked a lot of country acts back in those days. Okay. And so it kind of filtered down through him. He wasn't musically inclined, but he definitely had a love of the music, and so it kind of filtered down to me. He'd take me over to. He knew a lot of musicians too, and so he'd take me over to some people's house and have me sing with him. And I was probably probably 7, 8 years old maybe. Uh-huh. So it kind of started that way, and then once I got into the '60s, then I picked up the guitar. And kind of taught myself how to play and playing along with songs, and that's pretty much where everything started. I
saw in some of the notes that you began with the lap steel. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, actually, it was more of a dobro. It wasn't really a steel. It was an acoustic guitar that they have a way of raising that nut up. With a brass nut and getting it up high enough. But my first influence with an instrument was on. I'd call it a dobro, but other people would call it a lap steel.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next string,
Yeah. Is that harder to learn, or did you play it like you would play a regular 6-string guitar?
I don't think it was more difficult. Actually, in some respects, it might have even been a little easier. But I mean, when you're just learning to begin with, you're learning just the basic stuff. So it wasn't too difficult. Yeah. But I think it was more difficult taking that raised nut off and trying to figure out how to play chords. Yeah. I think that was a little more challenging.
Sure. Yeah. So you. High school talent contest, is that right? And then kind of formed your own band right after that.
Yeah, I was actually in a junior high, middle school. Okay. Talent contest, and then it really did. It spawned off of that. Some of the guys that I was playing in that band with, we decided to keep on doing it, and we worked little odds and end jobs, and then it just kind of grew from there. I had to find some different players, obviously, to continue to start working in the clubs and things like that. But once again, like I said, my dad was instrumental in getting us into clubs. So,
has this been something that you've pursued professionally from that point?
Yeah, I was about 15 when I started.
And has it always been kind of a full-time venture, or have you done other things in between?
Yeah, obviously it's pretty tough nut to crack to make a living doing it. I did it for a long time, but yeah, I've done other things. I've worked on business machines. I've sold cars. I actually my main job that allowed me to devote all my time to music now was working for the United States Postal Service.
Oh, okay.
I worked for them for a long time, and then I got out of that, and gave me enough so that I could go back and pursue my music again. So I kind of took it. I was still playing while I was working at the post office. It was just more difficult.
Right. Okay. And when did you start recording? Writing. I'm assuming you write a lot of your original songs and recording.
No, not so much. I don't have a lot of talent in the writing area.
Okay.
I've been fortunate enough to know people that do write that
sure.
allow me to do their songs. But yeah, no, I'm not quite in that vein. I'm not quite that good.
So when did you start recording professionally and creating music product for people to listen to?
Probably back in I'm going to guess it was about 1966.
Okay.
So I started doing that, and the first, obviously your first endeavors are something you want to kind of put under the table somewhere. It's such a big learning curve in that stuff. But at any rate, and that's when I first started. Then I got more serious as time went on. Back in the 70s, I was doing it full time on the road, and so then I started recording a little more seriously then. And as time progressed, I've done several albums. I was also a studio singer.
Okay.
Here locally in the Denver area. It was a production company, and they would sell commercials to country stations, rock stations, pop stations.
Oh, okay, sure.
So they had a stable of singers, and I was the country singer.
Okay.
And then just a sidebar on that one. I was working in the same studio that had Gary Morris doing all the pop stuff. So,
yeah. Okay.
He got well known as a country singer, but at the time he was doing all the pop stuff, and I was doing all the country stuff. So,
were you also doing some voiceover work as part of that?
Yeah. I did a lot of voiceover.
Okay. Was that still in addition to your postal career, or was that before you started that?
That was before I started that. I didn't start the post office until actually about 2000. So, I just got out of the post office here 3 years ago, I think.
Oh, right. Okay. So your music is, I guess I would, as I listen to it, would call it kind of the traditional classic country sound. It's certainly not what we hear on country music radio today. Does that fit? Am I defining that right for you?
Yeah, I would think so. I certainly don't fashion myself as any of the mainstream country artists that are out there today. Actually, I kind of look at this last album as being a little more along the lines of like a George Strait,
right?
Alan Jackson, that kind of thing. And I had a lot of the same players that have worked on their stuff on this CD as well. So, I think that's kind of where some of that feel comes from too.
I'm sure some of this is probably geographic in how things fit, but where do you find the style of music that you play? Where does that fit best for your listeners? Where do you find your best venues and outlets for your music?
Well, I've been playing around the area a lot, so I've kind of got a reputation around here in the Colorado area,
right?
And so there's mostly clubs. I do get into a couple of fair dates and a couple of 4th of July celebration things, and But as far as the listeners to my recorded music, it's really pretty much all over the map. You know, it's actually it's kind of interesting. This last week I've been talking to people in France and in Great Britain, so it's kind of making its way across the pond.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
We'll see where that all goes. But yeah, no, I'm really excited about just getting everybody to hear it, because I think it's a really good product, and I'm not a bragger, but I do think it's good.
Yeah. Well, it certainly it fits nicely under this relatively new umbrella called Americana. That kind of that anymore today, it's an alternative to the mainstream country, but I also think that it's starting to really generate a broader fan base as people sort of get tired of the mainstream and they're looking for other
alternatives,
alternatives, but still sort of fit within kind of their own flavor, but fit closer to what they would consider more authentic, maybe, if that's the right word. I noticed that you, in some of your several past albums, you were able to get some really good chart activity too on the radio.
Yeah, I've been really fortunate. I've had some promoters who helped me out a lot, and then I've just actually happened to meet some people that, word of mouth. A CD that I did back around 2001, I think it was, did really well throughout your part of the country, up and down through Maine and down through Florida.
Sure,
that whole
the East Coast
seaboard.
Yeah.
So that one did quite well for me. Plus, it went real well over in Ireland and Australia. So, I've been around for a while, and some of those outlets I'm still tapping into. So,
yeah.
Hopefully, I'll get some good response on this one too.
Do you have a particular kind of venue that you prefer, that you like to play over some of the others?
I like to play venues where it's I like the smaller rooms, actually, because it's a little more intimate, and you get the people right up front.
Yeah,
and I like that. I like to be able to look into their eyes and make a connection with them.
Right.
When you're doing the bigger ones, it's a little more difficult to do that. So I kind of enjoy those, but I'm not opposed to working the big shows though either. So our 4th of July things that we've done, it's been pretty big venues and quite a few people that were there. So I like those too, but I kind of prefer the smaller ones.
Yeah. Do you find that your shows are more conducive to a listening audience, or do you like to kind of create the environment where folks will actually get up and dance?
I have a lot of dancers that follow my music. Yeah, it's very danceable, and I do cater probably more to the dancers, but I guess that's what I'm saying. I really like the smaller venues where people are kind of forced to listen.
Right, yeah. What is a tour schedule? Do you get to tour? What does that look like for you when you've got a new record we're going to talk about here in a couple minutes, and when you do that, what does that look like for you when you get to play that out and let folks sample the new music?
Well, for the time being right now, it's still pretty well centered around the Colorado region, the Rocky Mountain region, but mostly Colorado. I don't venture out too far because it just hasn't warranted doing that. So, but with some exposure here, that could change everything.
Yeah. So that's kind of on the radar for you. You would like to take it outside Colorado if you could.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah,
you bet.
Okay. New CD. A few more miles to go, I think you said was the name of it. Is that how long has that been out for you?
The release date was December the 16th, so it's been
just recently,
just not even a month yet.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Tell me about that a little bit. The process of putting that together, picking some of the music that's on it.
Well, it was really quite a labor of love. It took almost 2 years to put this together.
Okay.
It started. I've got got a gentleman that I work with there in the Nashville area, and he has access to some really good songwriters. So I approached him about 2 years ago, and I said, I'd really like to put another CD together. Do you have some songs? And so obviously one thing led to another. He wound up giving me in the neighborhood of about 150 songs.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it took me some time to filter through all those, and they were, for the most part, they were all very, very good.
Yeah.
But, I narrowed it down to like maybe 30, and then from 30 down to 15, and finally got it down to about 10. And then I went from there, start learning it, and put the studio session together to get it all laid down, and then back and forth between Colorado and Nashville to do the vocals, and then just time took its course, and we finally got it all together, and came to fruition there in the middle of December.
Do you have a band that you work together with regularly? Were they able to play with you on the CD?
No, they did not, but I do have a regular band here in Colorado. Yeah, they're still pretty well, situated here in Colorado where they couldn't make that trip. And I was pretty sure that I wanted to use the players that I could get there in Nashville too.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. The title of the CD, A Few More Miles to Go, I can read into that what I think that means, but tell me what your interpretation of that title. Why did you pick that?
Well, to me, you just never know what, nothing is for sure. So
sure.
You're not promised tomorrow.
Right.
And I've been doing this for quite some time. So I'm just hoping that I get a few more months.
Yeah. How far out do you envision? Where do you still have some things you want to do with your music? What's it look like for you? A year out, a few years out. Do you think that far?
Yeah, I really think that I'll probably be working this CD for the better part of 2 years. I know the last one was more like 3 years.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to be able to carry this out about 2 years. In the meantime, I'll start working on the next CD and start trying to put some of the songs that I didn't do on this one. They're still in the back of my mind going, that's a good song to do.
Right.
Just didn't put on this one. So, yes, I do plan to do another one, and main thing is trying to get some traction with the airplay. And I think I would really do well with my music down in Texas, but that's kind of a tough nut to cut down there.
Yeah.
They're pretty much, if you're not from Texas, they don't play your stuff quite as much as they would the Texas people.
Yeah.
And I think it says a lot for the people of Texas and their musicians.
Sure.
They got that kind of support.
Yeah, I guess favorite sons, so to speak. They kind of
right
enjoy that. Yeah. So if folks want to listen to some of your older music and purchase a copy of the new CD, A Few More Miles to Go, what's the best way to do that, or reach out to you and learn some more about your music and how maybe they could schedule to come play?
Well, LeeSims.com is my website, so that's pretty simple. There's a lot of information there. There, you are able to purchase the CDs that I've done on that site. You can also find it on your streaming services like Spotify and Amazon and iTunes. So it's there too if you want to stream it, or if you wanted to purchase downloads, they're available there.
Good.
But by all means, I would wish people would come to my website and take a look around. I've got some videos from my previous CD on there.
Right. Yeah. I noticed that. Yeah. Good.
So
yeah.
Well,
we certainly wish you well with the new CD, and love for you to get a nice travel circuit head our way in Virginia, and hopefully we'll be able to catch a show somewhere in between. And folks want to reach out to you again, it's leesims.com, and we certainly thank you for being on the podcast, Lee.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks again for tuning in to this episode of Americana Music Profiles. Find us on iTunes at Americana Music Profiles and on the internet at americanarhythm.com.